to Economic Street. I'm Ola.
And I'm Nicholas.
And today we're going to be discussing Brexit, the story so far. So guys, Brexit negotiations, they've begun.
Yep.
June the 19th.
Correct.
We went to Brussels and we started a conversation about how exactly things are now going to
how this divorce is going to proceed,
with, all the different issues that they need to figure out. But the main sticking point so far is about the rights
of the EU citizens
living in the UK.
Correct.
So for people that don't fully understand what's going on, there's about 3 million people currently living in the UK and working in the UK that are from EU countries.
Correct.
What the EU are asking for are their rights to be guaranteed as citizens. So essentially their right to continue to live and work in the UK and to receive other benefits like medical care. There's basically the EU is asking for a lot more assurances than the UK have currently provided.
Correct.
So that's what they're still kind of clamoring about even before they've even got into the real nitty-gritty of the situation.
Yeah.
But let's park that for now and let's focus on the economic issues, and that's going to continue to impact us as individuals and as families, and what steps we can take to sort of mitigate any financial consequences of our decision to leave the EU. So Nick, just start by explaining the main issue around the value of the pound at the moment.
So as we've seen since Brexit has come into force, we've seen the value of the pound fall, which means that our goods, for us, when we go abroad, we can get less currency to then spend, and it also makes us, so as say from a business point of view, say if I import a lot from abroad, that makes my cost of good go up.
So you're talking about companies where they import a lot of their raw materials?
Correct. So a lot of companies that you have that import from Europe and the rest of the world, because not only has the pound fallen against the euro, it's actually fallen against other currencies as well, such as the dollar. So as you know, the UK imports a large amount from the Eurozone, but also
like food.
Correct. And also America. So as I said, the raw materials are essentially going up now because the value of the pound is falling.
Okay, so that leads to what we call inflation.
Correct. So that puts pressure on inflation, so because the cost of goods are going up, which means you're getting less for your money.
Okay. So just to explain that a little bit more, inflation is where prices rise over time. Now, if the value of the pound is falling, it means that for each pound, maybe before you could buy, I don't know, a kilo of rice.
Yeah.
Now you could only potentially get
half a kilo.
So by that meaning is that you now have to spend £2 to get 1 kilo if that's what you were consuming before.
Correct.
Or you cut down on your consumption. So that's kind of the situation people have been left with. Inflation can have has good merits and also bad merits.
Yeah.
Inflation can help to stimulate economic growth, but if it becomes out of
control, that's the key.
That's the issue.
It's, yes, as you said, it can help to stimulate economic growth with more purchasing going on.
People
spend more. But if it gets too far out of control, you'll get a fact of where interest rates will then start to go up. So then that has the reverse effect on helping the economy grow and inflation. So what it does, by bringing up interest rates, you're then hoping that consumers and businesses then start to save
and spend less. And by spending less, it means prices don't rise as quickly.
Correct.
As
before. So that's in most basic sense. Okay. That's where you get with interest rates going up. But then, as I said, then the flip side to that, though, the positive for savers at the moment for the last, 10 years, interest rates have been historically low. So savers have been putting money in their savings accounts.
I'm not really earning anything.
And technically, they're probably getting, in real terms, negative because inflation is going up and the rate of interest that they're getting is less than inflation. They're actually losing money rather than getting money in real terms.
Right, okay. So steps to kind of take around this would be find better products that pay better interest.
So you could depend on two ways. You could, as what we discussed in previous videos, as a basic consumer, looking at alternative ways of your spending and watching your spending. But in terms of, as say, an investor, if you want, looking at other ways to invest and make money. So let's say the old-fashioned way was putting it in a bank, because it's known as safe money. You put it in a bank and earn your interest. But as I said, there's the stock markets, there's property market, there's other ways that you can earn interest and capital.
Okay. Let's bring the conversation back to the Brexit. The next thing is going to be the divorce bill, as they're calling it.
Correct.
Figures have been touted of 50 billion to 100 billion pounds or euros. Given that the government is already running a deficit, so for those at home, to explain what a deficit is, it's basically when you're spending more than you're earning. Now with governments, they earn money from things like taxes, and they spend money on things like welfare and benefits. So if they're currently spending more than they're making, that's what's called a deficit. Now, given that we're already running a deficit in this country, and now we're going to be faced with this bill, how are they going to be able
to actually pay for it?
Yeah.
That's a good question. That's the honest answer. In the long and short of it is, if they don't want the deficit to get any bigger, they have to raise taxes
or cut
welfare. There's the only, in terms of balancing things, there's only two options. You either cut on welfare or raise taxes. So, as in welfare, that counts as your NHS, your pensions. As we've already seen, that they've increased the pension age.
Yeah.
To I think
68 now.
68.
Yeah,
and they brought it forward.
They're bringing it forward that date when they're going to trigger that.
Correct. So they've already started making
adjustments
to tackle the divorce bill. And I think, as well as not even just the economic impact, actually, as you said, the legality of Brexit is going to be a complicated. We're not lawyers ourselves, but it's going to be a complicated process in itself for us to leave the EU.
It's true. So with this divorce bill, if they're gonna cut welfare or cut spending, so NHS, or if some of our viewers are relying on welfare benefits like disability allowance or tax credits or working
tax credits.
Yeah. So again, is there something that we can do or they can do to kind of make sure they don't feel the impact too much if this happen? I know we're talking hypothetically because we've still got a way to go for Brexit, but just thinking ahead now, logically, is there anything that we can do? Just ride it.
Yeah, that's actually good because it depends, because because people are dependent on that. So it's like, it depends on your circumstances, because if you are able to get a job, that's the next thing. Jobs, because on one hand, I was about to say as a suggestion, working and getting a job to then not be reliant on the state. But then on the flip side, if Brexit's happening, or it's going to happen, how are we going to get it? Because there's going to be job losses as well.
Potentially.
So potentially, there's no gap, but potentially going to be job losses depending on the type of Brexit we get, which is another question in itself. So you're saying that you don't want to rely on the state, but the flip side is you may have to rely on the state more
because of it,
because of Brexit. But then how are you going to pay? Yeah. You see the cycle that's coming, and how are you going to pay for, I said, the potential legal bills if now the state can't get the money from us because we're relying more on the state? Yeah. It's a vicious cycle that potentially
spirals out. And which is why I'm starting to understand why some people are asking for the decision to leave the EU to be reversed. They're asking for a second referendum, which in itself raises issues about democracy.
I don't think that will happen. No. So then I've heard a few commentators saying to have a second referendum, but I think the British public's decision, whether you agreed with it or not, it's kind of final, and they've started the negotiations and put down the time frame of when we are looking to leave the EU. But as we said, we are already seeing, though, a bit of, since the election, a bit of back down from the government in terms of their stance on Brexit issues. Because as I said, at first it was looking like it was going to be a hard Brexit, but with Theresa May calling her election, which kind of failed, they're now
spectacularly.
Yeah, they're now like softening their position, and they're really talking about transition periods. So what they're trying to say, so what they're trying to say is we have to leave. So we triggered it. Was it March?
We triggered it in March of this year, which gives us 2 years to negotiate.
But what they also tried to say that although we've got the 2 years of negotiation, there's got to be a 3-year transition period.
Just to make sure it doesn't hit the economy.
Yeah.
hard.
So, but then it's such a mess in terms of trade negotiations. So, say at the moment we're in the free market, we're in the eurozone, so we can trade freely with our European brothers and sisters. But if an agreement is not agreed, we then go to the WTO, the World Trade Organization rules, which makes it more expensive for us.
Because that implies tariffs. So
Correct.
when you import stuff, you have to pay some sort of
tariff.
Yeah,
that works both ways. So with Europe being, the EU being our main
trading
partner,
that's going to affect us even more.
and then not even that, trade negotiations take years.
That's the thing. Yeah, it's not something that happens overnight.
Something, as I say, the legalities of Brexit is so complicated. With the divorce bill, with negotiating
new trade
deals. I know, as I say, we can then off our own backs go and negotiate deals with other countries, say the US, Japan, Australia, etc. But it's not going to be
overnight.
A click for fingers overnight. Look at the negotiation with the EU and Canada. That took 7 years?
Yeah.
So there's so much, and I think now people have seen.
And then it all has to be. What people don't realise is that apart from EU being one body, almost like one parliament representing 28 countries, these individual countries then have to also ratify it in their countries. So it's not like the EU makes a decision and that's it. Once the EU makes a decision, each country now has to take it back to their own country and say, do we agree or not? Yeah. So this is why the whole process is just looking like a minefield really to navigate. So, and just to bring it back to what you said about the jobs, if firms, the main sticking point right now is around access to the single market, which is where the trade deal comes into place. There's essentially the whole thing about the single market is you're linking economies of 28 countries together. So you allow free movement of goods, and services, and people.
That's the stumbling block.
The stumbling block. So if you're not going to allow, because this whole thing was about immigration. So if you don't want people to move freely, the EU are not going to allow you to move goods freely either, which is where the jobs now come into place, and firms might think, hold on a minute, we can't be based in the UK anymore because we don't have access to these other 27 countries in the EU. We might as well move over to somewhere in the EU.
I agree. That's the overall picture. But then on the flip side, you do have local BMW the other day announced that they're going to be building the electric Mini in Oxford, even after Brexit. So with anything, there's give and take on both sides. So yes, my personal opinion would be what you just said, the latter, in terms of it'll be more difficult to attract the firms to do this, but there are still firms that are willing to still come into the UK. I guess to say if we've got high productivity levels, you give incentives for firms to come to the UK to still make investments, but it's going to be a very difficult process in the long run.
Indeed. Moving on. So things of pressing concern right now. The right to continue to live and work in the UK for EU citizens. As we said, if you're an EU citizen and you're worried about your position, you've still got at least essentially 5 years, because we've got this 2-year negotiation period plus the 3 years of transition. So don't panic, just take it easy for now and let's see how this sort of still plays out. Next thing is potentially travel restrictions as well, because right now I can just hop on a plane,
travel freely,
go to Spain, go to Portugal, go Italy, Greece, anywhere.
And that's the thing, there's new costs, there's so much involved, because then you're going to need new infrastructure for migration controls.
Yeah.
As in, you can't then use the little passport, just scan in, and there's so much
to think about
with that was not taken into consideration before. So I think, I think something that we were talking about earlier today about what Lord Sugar was saying in terms of governments
being held accountable
for their manifestos.
It's almost like how company accounts have to be audited.
Correct.
And prosecuting politicians.
Yeah. I wouldn't go that strongly. Yeah, he's very. But from his logic though,
it makes sense.
It makes sense because
there's too more non-facts out here.
Yeah, no one being held accountable to what they say they was or wasn't gonna do. So yeah, we're in
precarious times.
Very precarious times in terms of what's going to happen. And I think the stance that the government's taken, well, they kind of have to because they lost the election. Well, they didn't lose the election, but she reduced her majority. So in terms of the type of Brexit that we're going to have, it looks like at least it's going to be on better terms. Yeah. But the EU, how much better? With the EU probably going to try and play hardball. It's
to make sure our members don't try this in the future.
Correct.
I think, to be honest, we should have come humble from the very beginning, because I think what we forgot, she kept saying Brexit means Brexit. But yeah, even though people voted for Brexit, it was by a very narrow margin. So even though we're leaving the EU, you can't forget the 48% of people
that wanted to stay. Yeah.
So there has to be a balance. You have to find the right line here. And I think
it's true. But I think she was kind of caught in between a rock and a hard place, because she actually campaigned to remain. But I was saying, with her party and her party stance, majority of her party was to leave.
Yeah.
So she was kind of in a rock and a hard place in terms of her stance. But
I think this is where party politics needs to be put aside, and you just think
for the best of the British people, that's who she's serving at the end of the day.
Hopefully, with the travel restrictions, we can look past that and still allow visa-free travel, because at the end of the day, tourism is in the best interest of everybody. If I can go somewhere else and spend money in that economy, it's good for that local economy, and vice versa for people coming here. But yeah, hopefully, it's hard. It's hard to be optimistic about Brexit at the moment. But at the same time, we can't see 10, 15 years into the future. If we could,
life will be very easy.
Yeah. Maybe things will be better, but for now, it's kind of hard to manage the situation. We just have to make sure that we're taking steps that we're not suffering too much from inflation. And
I think at the end of the day, we're at factors that we can't control, because it's not us that are in the negotiations. It's at the hands of the government who have been voted in. So hopefully they to represent us. So hopefully they do what's best for the people. As in, that doesn't always happen. So it's just a wait and see game. And as I said, it's a long time, these negotiation processes, with plus the transition period. So it's going to be a long haul game.
Yeah. Boy.
We'll be here to cover it.
It is what it is.
We'll be here to cover it.
It is what it is. Hopefully, in the next few months, things become a bit clearer as well.
Correct.
And we have a better idea as to where we are. The problem with these kind of things is the longer they drag out, the more uncertainty it creates. More uncertainty is not good for
businesses. The market, they don't like uncertainty.
Because they stop taking decisions, because they don't know
where we're going to be.
Yeah. So they think, hold on a minute, maybe I want to invest in a factory for 1 million, but actually I don't know if I can win that much business or even get my products, like my raw materials in. So let me not do that. And by putting off those decisions,
that has a reverse effect on the economy.
So it's hard. So the most important thing now is to really start making things clearer, not just for the British public, but also for our EU counterparts, because at the end of the day, they're still our neighbours, and we need to find a way to coexist.
Correct, I agree.
Cool. Any final comments on this before we wrap up?
It's just that it's going to be an ongoing situation, so we'll do more of this, further updates as more progression happens, and keep our listeners in touch on our opinions and what we think is going on.
Cool, awesome. Guys, I hope you found that beneficial for those listening or for those watching online. Send in your questions, send in your comments. We also want to know your opinions. Let us know what,
how you feel
about it.
You might be pro-Brexit, you might not be for it. Let us know how you feel.
Yeah, and we can always discuss it on future episodes. So thanks for tuning in. Stay tuned. We're going to have a lot more coming your way in terms of content. Let us also know what you'd like us to speak on, and